years ago, I knew more than 5,000 English words. At least, that was what my vocabulary app told me. I could recognize difficult words: opportunity, achievement, environment, communication, confidence. I knew them all. But one afternoon, someone asked me a simple question: "What do you do for work?" And suddenly, I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't know the words, not because I didn't understand the question. I simply couldn't speak. My mind froze. My mouth stayed closed. And for a few painful seconds, I just smiled. If you have studied English for years, if you understand English videos, if you know hundreds or even thousands of words, but still struggle to speak, then this video is for you. Because the real reason you cannot speak English is probably not what you think. And when I discovered it, everything changed. Stay with me until the end. I think you may discover something important about your own English journey. For many years, I believed vocabulary was the answer. The more words I learned, the better my English would become. That sounded logical. So every day I learned new words. In the morning, I opened vocabulary apps. During lunch, I reviewed flashcards. Before bed, I memorized word lists. My notebook became thicker every month. Every page was full of English words. Some words were easy. Some words were difficult. But I felt proud. Whenever I learned 50 new words, I felt productive. Whenever I completed another lesson, I felt closer to fluency. At least, that was what I thought. One evening, I sat at my desk. The room was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of my laptop. I opened an English video. The speaker talked quickly. Surprisingly, I understood most of it. I smiled. Wow, I thought, my English is improving. Then I paused the video. I looked at the screen and asked myself a simple question. Can I explain this idea in English? Silence. I knew every word the speaker used, but I couldn't produce them myself. It felt strange, like owning thousands of tools, but not knowing how to use them. Have you ever felt that? You know the words. You recognize them instantly. But when you need them, they disappear. At the time, I thought I needed even more vocabulary, so I studied harder. And that mistake followed me for years. Then one day, something happened. Something I still remember clearly. My company invited several international visitors. One of them was from Canada. Everyone seemed excited. People were introducing themselves, talking, laughing, sharing stories. I stood nearby, holding a cup of coffee, watching, listening, understanding almost everything. Then my manager looked at me. He smiled. This is a great opportunity. My stomach tightened. The Canadian visitor walked toward me. He looked friendly, relaxed, confident. "Hi," he said. "Nice to meet you." I smiled. "Nice to meet you too." So far, so good. Then he asked, "How long have you been working here?" I understood every word instantly. Every single word. But something strange happened. My brain started searching, working, translating, building a sentence. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The silence grew. I could hear people talking around us. I could hear someone laughing behind me.
I could hear cups touching plates. But inside my head, everything became loud and chaotic. I knew the word work. I knew the word year. I knew the word company. I knew hundreds of related words, yet I couldn't answer. Finally, I said, I work here. Then I stopped. His smile became slightly confused. Not rude, just confused. He waited politely. I felt my face getting hot. My hands became sweaty. My heart beat faster. I tried again. 3 years? Here? The sentence sounded broken, awkward, embarrassing. Meanwhile, a coworker joined the conversation.
She spoke naturally. Not perfectly, but naturally. The conversation continued without me. I stood there smiling again, nodding again, listening again, invisible again. A painful thought entered my mind. I know more vocabulary than she does, and yet she was speaking. I wasn't. That realization hurt. After the event ended, I walked home alone. The sky was turning orange. Cars passed by. People were talking. Life continued normally. But inside me, something felt broken. When I arrived home, I dropped my bag on the floor. I sat on the edge of my bed. The room was silent. I opened one of my vocabulary notebooks. Hundreds, maybe thousands of words. Page after page, word after word. For the first time, I asked myself a different question. What if vocabulary is not my real problem? The question scared me. Because if vocabulary wasn't the problem, then what was? That night, I didn't study. I didn't review flashcards. I didn't memorize anything. I simply stared at the ceiling, thinking, wondering, searching for an answer. And that question stayed in my mind for weeks.
One morning, I was watching a child learn to speak. The child didn't know thousands of words. The child didn't know grammar rules. The child didn't even speak correctly. But the child kept talking. Again, and again, and again. Then I realized something. For years, I had trained myself to recognize English, not produce English. I had practiced input, reading, listening, memorizing, watching, but almost never speaking. Imagine going to a gym for 10 years, but only watching other people exercise. Would your muscles grow? Of course not. That was exactly what I was doing with English. I wasn't lacking vocabulary. I was lacking speaking experience. And suddenly, everything made sense. My problem wasn't knowledge. My problem was practice. The next day, I tried something different, something small, something simple. I stopped learning 50 new words every day. Instead, I chose 10 words I already knew. Then I used them in sentences, out loud, not in my head, out loud. At first, it felt uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I sounded slow, awkward, sometimes ridiculous. But I kept going. Every morning,
every evening, I spoke. I described my room. I described my breakfast. I described my day. Some sentences were terrible. Some sentences were incomplete. But something amazing started happening. The words stayed longer. They appeared faster. They became easier to access. For the first time, English felt alive. Not stored inside a notebook, not trapped inside an app. Alive. And that gave me hope.
Now, let's practice together. Listen. Repeat. Speak with confidence. 1. I knew thousands of English words. 2. But I couldn't speak. 3. My mind froze during conversations. 4. I understood the question. 5. But I couldn't answer. 6. I spent years memorizing vocabulary. 7. I thought vocabulary was the solution, but I was wrong. 8. I practiced input more than output. 9. I learned many words, but I rarely used them. 10. Speaking is a skill. 11. Skills improve through practice. 12. I stopped chasing new words. 13. I started using the words I already knew. 14. Slowly, my confidence grew. 15. Now English feels more natural, and I keep improving every day. If this story feels familiar, I want you to remember something. You are probably not stuck because you lack vocabulary. You may already know enough words to start speaking. The problem is not what you know. The problem is what you do with what you know. For years, I thought I was far away from fluency. The truth? I was much closer than I realized. Maybe you are too. So tell me in the comments, how many English words do you think you know? And do you ever feel like they disappear when you need them most? In the next episode, I will share another hidden reason many learners stay stuck for years. Why you still translate in your head before speaking. And when you understand that problem, your English journey may change forever. I'll see you in the next video.